Source: the text is an excerpt from Iwana Kienzler's book Legacy of Blood, Descendants of Poland's Rulers on the Thrones of Europe, which has just been published by Bellona. Svetoslava, Sigrída, Storrada, Gera, or perhaps Gunhilda, who was not the Great's mother?
Publication date July 22, 2021. By Iwana Kienzler. The link will be posted in the video description. Sven Widlebrodt was half Slavic by his mother, and since he took a wife from Poland, his son Canute the Great, the monumental ruler of the Scandinavians, according to Blood, was 3/4 Slavic and half Piast, notes prominent Polish medievalist and archaeologist Przemysław Urbańczyk. Who was Svetoslava? Did she exist at all? Scandinavians do not like to be reminded of this. Who knows, perhaps this aversion is at the root of doubts about the identity of Swedislava Storrada, who, according to tradition, was the mother of 3 Scandinavian rulers, ruling Denmark, Sweden and Norway, as well as England, and descended from Poland. What's more, she was supposed to be the daughter of Mieszko I, and therefore also the sister of the first crowned ruler of our state, Boleslaw the Brave. Although it must be admitted that among those doubting her identity, or more precisely her Piast roots, are also Polish historians. Their doubts are aroused by the fact that none of the medieval Polish chronicles even mentions the existence of Swetoslava, while at the same time writing extensively about the first rulers of the Piast dynasty. Moreover, some question her existence, considering that the stories about Swetoslava are a conglomeration of biographies of several other princesses and not of Polish or Slavic, but Scandinavian origin. Meanwhile, the absence of Mieszko I's daughter in the Polish chronicles by no means proves that she is a fictional character. Our historians, led by Gall Anonym, did not write at all about women, wives, mothers, sisters, or daughters of kings and princes, not to mention their lovers. So why would they write about Boleslaw's sister, who played a much greater role in the history of Scandinavia than of Poland? Piast is mentioned in medieval sources written outside our country, including the Chronicle of Thiat Marifat. For example, Gall, whose work was written at the court of Vladislav Herman, did not say a word about the daughters of the brave. Only the German chronicler Thietmar mentions them, and only when writing about the offspring of the first crowned ruler of our state. Meanwhile, the Piast daughters are mentioned in medieval sources written outside our country, namely in Thietmar's chronicle. The Deeds of the Bishops of the Church of Hamburg by Adam of Bremen, and in the anonymous work Encomium Emirania. The latter work is a kind of medieval biography written around 1041 to 1042 by an unnamed monk from the monastery of St. Bertin in Flanders St. Omer. Read also, Mieszko I's descendants held northern Europe in their grip. It's all thanks to a Piast woman who became a Viking queen, Sigrid from the Nordic sagas. Although the first of the chroniclers, Thietmar, does not give the name of the Polish princess, he writes about the daughter of Mieszko I, and sister of Boleslaw the Brave, who married Sven Widlebrodt and gave birth to 2 sons, Canute and Harold. This information is considered reliable, since the German chronicler was well versed in the affairs of the state of the Brave, a ruler who caused considerable trouble for neighboring countries. The historian had no sympathy for Mieszko's son, but precisely because of this antipathy he devoted a lot of space in his chronicle to Poland. And thanks to this we have quite detailed information about the life, activities, and politics of the brave. Mentions of Sviatoslav are also found in old Scandinavian sagas, although he appears in them under different names, but it is difficult to treat these works as reliable historical sources, especially since the form in which they survive to our time is far from the original. Initially, these sagas existed only in oral form, handed down from generation to generation, and over time they were altered, supplemented with myths and legends,
which were carelessly combined with historical facts to suit the tastes and needs of successive generations of listeners. And it is difficult to hold a grudge against the authors of these versions, since the primary purpose of such works was not to teach history, but to provide entertainment. Despite everything, however, researchers, meticulously separating the wheat from the chaff, managed to get to the historical events and characters they tell about. Most of these works were written down relatively late, only 200 years after the first oral version was written. Therefore, it seems likely that they deliberately replaced the Scandinavians' difficult-to-pronounce name of the mothers of the rulers of the early statehood of Denmark, Sweden and Norway with the familiar-sounding Sigrid Storrada, Sameza, Astrida or Gunhilda. Also read, One Thing You Need to Know About Sviatoslav, Mother of Kings. This procedure has greatly complicated matters for researchers dealing with the ancestry of Knut's mother. According to some historians, Miško I, before he married Dobrava the Premeslide, had another wife, the daughter of the Danish king Harald Blatand, Gera. And it was from this union that 2 daughters were to come. His mother's namesake, Gera, who was married to Erik Tryggvason, and Estrada, who married Jomsborg's Jarl Sigvaldr Dahlsson of the Zealand dynasty. When Miško decided to embrace Christianity, Gera was already dead, so he could have married Dobrava. Evidence for this would be found in 12th and 13th century sagas, which mention a Wendish or Slavic ruler, a certain Berslav or Berislav, who had 3 daughters, Gunhilda, Astrid and Gera. According to some researchers, Berislav is actually Miško I. On the other hand, Raphael T. Prink, a historian specializing in genealogy, in 2004 put forward a bold thesis that Sviatoslava was indeed the daughter of the creator of the Polish state. But she did not come from his marriage to Dobrava, but from his union with Oda, which postpones the princess' birth date in time. At the same time, he cast doubt on the thesis of Miškova's marriage to Erik the Victorious, claiming that she became the wife of Svenfila Broad, with whom she lived to have 4 children, including Knut. Meanwhile, Theitmar does not mention that the princess, the wife of the Danish ruler, was the half-sister of Boleslav, yet if he had, he would not have missed including this information, especially since her mother was said to have been a German woman, Oda. According to most historians, Theitmar is right, Sviatoslava really existed and was the daughter of Miško and Dobrava. Even Queen Elizabeth II, during a visit to Poland in 1996, giving a speech in the parliament, said, "The dynastic, commercial and political contacts we have maintained over the centuries have been rich and varied. One of my very distant ancestors, King Canute, was the nephew of your King Boleslav the Brave." Since it is inappropriate to cast doubt on the words of the monarch, whose opinion is agreed with by more than one researcher, let us therefore acknowledge that Knut the Great was the native grandson of Miško I and Dobrava, the fruit of the union of the Polish ruler's daughter with Svenforkbrody. However, before Sviatoslav married the Danish ruler with the picturesque nickname, she was married to Erik the Victorious, with whom she lived to have 2 children, a son Olaf and a daughter Hólmfríða. While we know practically nothing about the fate of Hólmfríða, other than the fact that she married the Norwegian Jarl Sven Håkonsson, her older brother made a permanent mark in the history of Sweden and the Church.
The text is a fragment of Iwona Kienzler's book. So, the title translated in English is Blood Inheritance, Descendants of Polish Rulers on the Thrones of Europe, which has just been published by Bellona Publishing House. But remember, at the beginning of the translation, the date was given. Thank you for listening.